CP3.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network. Thank you,
gentlemen. That's right. It's Monday night. Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network, episode 239. CP3 coming to you live from the lab. Robbie G coming to you live from the man cave, bringing you the best DC sports coverage around, even in the dark times we're facing with the Nationals. They're currently playing the Phillies right now. They're down 7-3 in the top of the fifth. This game definitely took a turn in the last couple of innings. The Nats came back, made it a 3-2 game in the bottom of the third. Unfortunately, in the top of the fourth, Josiah Gray had some control issues and loaded the bases. Then they got a RBI triple clearing the bases and extending the lead. The Nats been, chipping away, got another run, but they're down 7-3 currently in the top of the fifth, trying to claw their way back in this game. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show after we talk some Washington football team with the tomorrow cut date at 4 p.m. We got a chance to see the team in the final preseason game against the Ravens, looking to extend their 19-game preseason winning streak. So we're definitely going to talk about that coming up shortly. But before we get there, Robbie G, how are you doing tonight, good sir?
I'm doing okay. How am I coming in?
Sound pretty good. You sound pretty good.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, it's been an interesting week, as you said. This Phillies game is 7-3 right now, in the top of the fifth. There's a base runner on for the Phillies, and we'll see if they're going to do more damage. And it's been a rough week for DC sports fans. I'm actually repping the very first time ever wearing the purple District of Champions, and that's because a purple team came and just walloped us. I didn't feel right wearing the burgundy today, Carol. So my wife actually has this District of Champions purple merch, and so I figured it was a little bit fitting for the first time ever on the show to break it out. You got to tip your hat to them. I mean, I know that preseason records don't mean a lot, but now they have set the record for most preseason wins in a row for any NFL franchise in history. So be interesting to see if there's any carryover, good or bad, from that. But it was a pretty tough watch for Washington football team fans. But, honestly, the Ravens, I think, lost bigger, even if not on the scoreboard. Some key injuries for them. I think they would argue that they wish the game was closer if they could have got out of that game healthy. As someone who does root for both teams, I was disappointed in the outcome for both teams in some ways, so which is tough to say with such a blowout. You'd think, the Ravens, if you like the Ravens, you should be excited about that. But like, you lose a key player, in a relatively meaningless game, it's a tough pill to swallow. I know a lot of Ravens fans are pretty upset.
I mean, honestly, the score 37-3. If you look at it, the Ravens played their starters for a quarter and a half. Washington didn't play their starters at all, which caught me off guard because earlier in the week, Coach said that the starters were going to get some play in the game. But after the game, he said the reason why he didn't have starters in because he wanted to avoid injury, which we saw with J.K. Dobbins with the Ravens, blew out his ACL, and he's gone for the season. Unfortunately, like you said, a meaningless game. Harbaugh definitely was dead set on breaking the record. That was something that was important to him. Like I say, the score 37-3, wasn't indicative to the game. Like I say, preseason, you more checking out the players, trying to make the team see how they react to the pressure situation of trying to make the team knowing that they're on the bubble, yada, yada, yada. Baltimore looked like they game plan for this game. Washington, not so much. They mentioned it during a broadcast with the Washington football team having 2 games in 10 days in the first 2 weeks that they game plan for the Chargers and they have to get ready for the Giants for that quick turnaround game on Thursday in week 2. So they were really, vanilla in this game and didn't really game plan for this, and they were just, putting players out there to see how they perform. You saw Carolina started the game, and Steven Montez finished the game. You saw flashes of Jared Patterson. You saw Peyton Barber out there. I feel was fighting for a job. I feel like he might be a cut because Patterson definitely isn't going to make it to the practice squad from the preseason that he had. So they're not going to be able to release him. I think he's going to clear waivers. And he played himself onto this team. So he, had a couple of drops yesterday in the passing game. Saturday in the passing game that we didn't see in those first 2. Hopefully, that doesn't carry over to the regular season. With both of the plays that he did drop the ball, he was clearly looking to make a move on the defender that was closing in before he got the ball. And we've seen it hundreds of times when the receiver does that. So I'm looking at just a fluke thing that we saw his hands in the previous games, and so how he reacted getting go with the 1s and 2s. So I think he's definitely played himself onto the roster. But yeah, it's unfortunate the season-ending injury for the running back. But, he's definitely a key piece to their offense, but they definitely look good in what they were doing, especially with Huntley in there. They got 2 sacks on Jackson for his first action in the preseason, so that's always a good thing, even when you have your backups in there who's fighting for a job. But all in all, it was, the score was, indicative of the game. Baltimore held the ball for, I believe, 43 minutes of the game, so they pretty much dominated in every aspect. The offense couldn't get anything going. 3 and outs for the first 5 or 6 possessions. So yeah, I just think it was a lack of game plan, and with the backups on against the Ravens starters, it he got a 37-3 score. That's just my broad opinion of the outcome of the game.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, good news, Carol. I was able to share to all the groups the single one from our page for the first time in a bunch of weeks. I just went very, very slowly, but it let me share one post to all of them. So I will. I'm excited to see. Hopefully, people will be able to tune in, ask questions. If anyone has any questions on that feed, I'll bring them in as well. But I guess that's the key: is if you don't do it too fast, maybe you can slip by. But anyway, we've been frustrated with Facebook talking about them offline. So hopefully, maybe the tides are turning. So, but yeah, it's frustrating because I don't know what to make of this game, because obviously the big stars weren't really playing much. It's a way to sort of test out to see how the bottom part of your team shapes out. Like, how do you get down to 53? And you're playing against a Ravens team that's really good. So I guess that's in some ways good to sort of a barometer. If you don't want to play a bad team that last week and not have that be, somebody comes out and looks amazing, and then maybe they're not really that amazing, So
we've definitely seen that before.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see, with having 3 preseason weeks instead of 4, how teams had to play it very differently. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. We're gonna have a week off now, and then we're gonna go into the regular season, and how is that all going to play out? I'm fine with having a relatively mediocre preseason if that means we hit the ground running. But Carol, from what you've seen so far, do you think going into these first few games that they've set themselves up well for success?
From the sample sizes we've seen on the field against competition, the starting offense hasn't gotten the end zone, so that's always concerning. But excuse me, with new quarterback, new pieces on offense, and shuffling the offensive line, trying to figure out which is the best fit, definitely played a role in that. So, not making excuses for them. They're trying to, get their combinations together. You have a couple of players that haven't been playing. Samuel hasn't been on the field. Luckily, he's been in the playbook before, so hopefully he's studying, and it shouldn't be too hard for him to get back on the same page with the offense once he does get on the field. That's the only thing that mainly concerned me about the starting offense. The defense looked like it's ready to go. I'm anxious to see who makes the team tomorrow at 4 o'clock, because there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of talent, and I can't wait to see the folks that they're going to have out there on the field and how they're going to mesh together, play together, and hopefully make this team defense tops in the league. They set a high bar for themselves last year, and definitely have to build off of that and continue to grow and get better as a defense so they can help dictate the pace and aid the offense and give the offense, more opportunities, sometimes on a short field, or, give them 3 and outs like we saw our offense on Saturday continue to give Baltimore the ball. And even on the first quarter, they didn't really score. In the second quarter, they put up 16 points to get to some separation. So that's what you want to see from your defense transitioning to offense, to give your offense the ball, to give them more chances to score and in better field position, because you're not always going to get 80-yard drives when kicking off, or 75-yard drives with the ball in the 25 and they kick off and everything. So, the defense, I feel, is definitely, as everyone always says, the defense is going to be the key to this team. If they're able to, force turnovers and get off the field on third downs, get 3 and outs, then that's going to help the offense, get its rhythm going and find what works, because they definitely have the talent at all the skill positions now. And yeah, it's just a matter of time. And Scott Turner still coming into his own as an offensive play caller, basically building his team. Like I said, I'm not really going to critique his play calling because, like we said earlier, it was vanilla, so can't really be too critical of his play calling right now, because you don't want to put too much stuff on tape for folks to have during preseason, and then they can scheme for it when they play you during the season if they see some of your tendencies of the plays that you're calling. So, that's some of the reasons why they don't show too much in preseason. They're basically putting the players through the reps to see against competition, to see how they perform and see how they react to the pressures of the game, and see if they can hopefully, help the team become better. So that's where we are right now. I'm trying to be optimistic about the offense, but like I said, not seeing them score a touchdown does have me a little, concerned.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, I would say, just to sort of how you go. We finally had an off season with this coach and with this system, and I agree. They just haven't showed us everything that they had yet. I was very impressed with how they ended last year. And I'm curious to see how they're able to bring some of that momentum forward into this upcoming season. The teams in our division did not fare well. Again, I know it's preseason. I don't want to put too much stock into it. But we're the only team to have won a game in the preseason in our division.
Yeah,
Which is, and Dallas had 4 chances. We only had 3. So who knows what that really means? But it doesn't look like this division is filled with world beaters, right? It's not like I saw any of those other teams and I was like, oh man, it's the Eagles of the Super Bowl team a couple of years ago, or the Giants of the Super Bowl team, or the Cowboys of the 90s. So it's not. This division's ripe for the picking, right? And we have a veteran quarterback. And I got to ask you, Magic, he's good for a certain number of games every season. There's a reason why he hasn't been a starter in so many teams in this league, right? He's often that guy that comes in and saves your butt in his moment, and he comes in and has this glory, fourth quarter comeback story. How many times have we heard that? Won a season, I want to say, for his whole career. But when he's put in the starting role, I feel like he falters a little bit. So what is your assessment of that, and how does he compare to an Alex Smith that we had last year, who obviously was a game changer for us?
That's the early book on Fitzpatrick. Eric, he says he turn the volume up, turn my levels up.
You sound fine on my end, but I did see that. Sorry, I meant to
Okay,
say
no
that
problem.
he messaged it. Yeah.
But with Fitzpatrick, if you look at his numbers for the last 3 seasons, he's improved in his QBR, he's improved in his quarterback rate. His turnover ratio, touchdown interception ratio has gone down. He's making better decisions. He isn't the risk taker as he was early in his career. And the reason why in the recent starts that he hasn't finished the season as a starter is because there was a young rookie waiting in the wings that the fans were clamoring for just because of his reputation of he's hot, he's cold, he'll turn into an interception machine. So I feel like at this stage of his career, with the coaching staff and the knowledge and experience that he has, that you know it's a to me it's a better chance of this going favorable than it turning into a whole debacle of him looking like Fitz tragic instead of Fitz magic. So I mean I'm confident in what I've seen from him over the last few seasons. Going back looking at his play in Miami and in Tampa Bay, and I have confidence that he's going to do okay. And then if he doesn't, I have confidence that Heineke can come in there and do the job. As I mentioned last week, I just hope he slows down and starts to stay in the pocket a little bit more. I love when
Have they announced that he's the second spot over Allen yet?
I haven't seen any announcement about it. I just saw the announcement that not even a real announcement. Ian Rappaport said that Fitzpatrick's going to be the starter. With Allen and Heineke, I haven't seen anything yet. We'll probably see a depth chart in a week or two, unless coach decides to real how it's going to fall out. But we're going to see definitely by 4 o'clock. You know, if they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks, because it's 9 out of 10, Stephen Montez is going to end back on the practice squad again. And if they're carrying 3 quarterbacks or 2 quarterbacks, he mentioned last year we went through 4, so it's probably a higher probability they'll keep 3 on the roster, 2 active during the game day. So it's I don't know. I mean, Heineke, he has those intangibles. He has the hustle, and you can see he has the grit and determination that you want from your quarterback. Allen, he knows the offense. He can he can buy time with his feet if he needs to, but you can obviously tell he's more comfortable being in the pocket instead of leaving the pocket if things don't pan out if it's first and second reads. He'll sit in the pocket and try to let things develop. So it depends on where coach wants to go with it. I mean, honestly, Allen didn't really throw the ball too much. He was mostly handing the ball off in both his appearances in the game. So he threw the ball 22 times. I believe he was 10 for 22 for 100 yards. So in 2 starts, he threw the ball a total of like 28 times. So we're going to find out which way he goes with that, because I'm definitely interested to see who's going to be the backup. Because, like I said, if Fitzpatrick does falter, you definitely want to have that guy that's going to come in that can pick up. And that can
So I got a question from Facebook for you.
All right.
Why does Washington start the season off every year slowly? And it's from Anthony Price.
We can go back to the previous coach. He didn't take preseason seriously. He didn't take training camp seriously, and we saw that the team would start out slow and take some time to get in a rhythm and find themselves. Last year, with the first year under Coach Rivera, unfortunately, they didn't have training camp or OTAs. And the first 4 games of the season, you saw the inconsistencies and the mistakes the team were making. They won the first game and lost the next 3. That was like their preseason, and then they started getting things together and got hot towards the end of the season. So I feel that's why, in my opinion, that with them having preseason, a real training camp and OTAs, that they should start the season out, in a better position and not playing from, trying to come back and having to go on a big winning streak in order to try to make the playoffs. I said last week I feel like they're going to go 3-1 in their first 4 games. Only loss I see coming is the Buffalo on the road. They're definitely a tough team, And Josh Allen has definitely progressed and stepped his game up as a quarterback. They have good quality receivers and they have a nice defense. So, but other than that, even though with the quick turnaround, the first 2 weeks with the Chargers and the Giants, I feel like both of those games are winnable. You know, coaches at practice, you know, the media doesn't get to see everything. We get to see what's on the field. And, you know, they're still learning, still trying to figure things out. Like I said, you got different players moving in different positions. So you really don't have a chemistry build up with the offensive unit. You know, you're plugging players in. So you're not really seeing a finished product. So that's why, you know, you don't want to be too critical of what you see on the field in preseason. You just want to, they're basically evaluating players. So unfortunately, the previous coach didn't take preseason and training camp seriously. We definitely see how coach takes it seriously, and he definitely has the faith in his team the way he's preparing in the training camp. And we also have to mention, as we did last week with Big Hurt, how there have been no, you know, knock on wood, no injuries, no blown anything, no, you know, pulled hamstrings, nothing, because that goes to training and conditioning that we see the coaches putting them through, that they're ready to play football, they're ready to be a physical team and, you know, play 60 minutes of football and not, you know, couple of quarters and having to come from behind all the time. So I'm feeling that we're hopefully going to see a change in that this season with them having a training camp and preseason and working the kinks out and this 2 week stretch before the season starts, that they'll, you know, have their designated starters and start to get some chemistry, some consistency, and look better than what we saw from the first string offense getting into the end zone. Because we know that's been a problem here for a while, settling for 3 instead of getting 6.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how we start off. You know, because there's a bit of a gap here, not quite 2 weeks, but it's a pretty long time between now and game one. And I just hope that we're able to tune up. We have our first 2 games at home. You know, if we look ahead in the schedule, and it'll be interesting. We got the Chargers. It's at 1:00 on Sunday, September 12th, and then this really quick turnaround on Thursday, September 16th against the Giants. So both are at home, and then we've got 10 days off until we go to Buffalo and then at Atlanta on Sunday, October 3rd. And that's kind of the first quarter or so of the season. So if people don't remember, there's 17 games now instead of 16. And then just real quickly, it's New Orleans, Kansas City, Green Bay, Denver for like the next chunk of 4. So New Orleans is in Washington, and so is Kansas City, and then 2 road games, Green Bay and Denver. So it's this kind of pattern: 2 home, 2 road, 2 home, 2 road. Then we've got our bye week in week 9, and then we start this kind of every other schedule. So Tampa Bay is a home game against the defending champions on Sunday, November 14th. It's a 1:00 game. And then it's at Carolina at 1 on the following week. And then Seattle comes to town. We go to Vegas. Dallas comes to town on December the 12th. We go at Philadelphia. Time to be determined on Sunday, December 19th. And Sunday, December 26th, we're at Dallas. And then we end the season with a game at home against Philadelphia on Sunday, January 2nd. And then Sunday, January 9th, it's at the New York Giants. So the season goes a week later than it had in previous years. But we have to basically, for the last 5 weeks, play all divisional teams, which could work really in our advantage or it could really screw us, I think. But it's going to be interesting. It's just so weird to me that the only time other than that sort of gauntlet right there that we play a divisional opponent is week 2 on this short week. And then we don't play anybody for like the whole season. Like, it's so bizarre to me, Carol. I can't get over it.
I never try to understand the NFL scheduling, the way they set things up. To me, it's always, you know, been an issue with some of the scheduling and some of the trips or the, you know, where they set things up. So, like we mentioned before, you know, we're the only team that has, you know, 5 division games at the end of the season. So, like I said, it could be to an advantage, but it's definitely going to be games that matter. So, I mean, we've seen this team last year when games mattered. They stepped up and did what they had to do, no matter who was at quarterback. So, I think if we get consistent play,
This sucks that 3 of them are on the road, right? You know, like it's just like it's your entire slate of road divisional games.
but
crazy.
it's that's why I don't mind road games because in essence, sometimes the team focuses more when they're on the road because you simplify things. You know, you're all staying in the same hotel. You know, you're all going to the stadium together. You know, when you're home, there are a little bit more distractions. You know, sometimes you got to worry about getting tickets for folks and, you know, boom, boom, boom. But when you're on the road, it's more like a business trip. We've seen, you know, some of the other franchises say, you know, we're going on a business trip to handle our business, you know, and they handle it in a different mindset. So I don't really mind the road games because to me that's when the team is more focused because they know they're going into a hostile environment. You know, they might not get the calls because they're on the road. You know, they might not the refs might not be in their favor. But don't even get me started. I was thinking about the wild card game here with Tampa. That's why I can't wait for that game in Week 10 because yeah, I hope the Washington football team definitely have some vengeful thoughts in that game. So some of the stuff that went down that didn't get called in that game.
People forget that we lost to the eventual champions. And like I've always said that there's something like I know it's never good to lose, but at least you lost to the best team. You know, like it's not like we lost to like some schlub that then gets knocked out in the next round.
I felt like they shouldn't have been there because that game against the Washington football team would have got called correctly. They wouldn't have got past Washington. And, you know, they granted the next teams, all the teams that they faced, they pretty much handled after that. But you go back and look at some of those holding and, you know, blatant holds that when the defensive line was getting to Brady that they didn't call and allow plays to, you know, get third downs and extend drives. Yeah, I know the defense was fed up. It was like I even showed a couple of stills of they had some of the linemen in headlocks in front of the ref, and the ref didn't call it. I'm like, that should be at least a holding call or something. So that's why I feel like you know that I'm still salty about that game, and we know a couple of the players mentioned that in the preseason that they have that game circled on their calendar because they felt like that they left a lot on the field, but they did give up 500 yards of offense and didn't control the game the way they felt like they should. So they definitely have something to prove. So I don't really put too much stock in the losing to the eventual champion. I mean, it's cool. Yeah, it's something you could put, you know, a feather in your cap, but it's still, you know, still not the best, not the same as winning it all. Saying, you know, yeah, we did it. We ain't worried about getting beat by the team that did it.
Right. People are joining us on our Facebook feed. I appreciate it. Got a couple of quick questions. Do you see Matt Ioannidis staying with the team, Carol? This is again from Anthony Price.
He actually has, I believe, 2 more years on his extension. He signed, I believe, 2 years ago. So he's pretty much locked in for the next 2 years. They won't have to make a decision on him. The next person coming up for extension is Deron Payne. He still has another year because they extended the 5th-year option on him. Somebody is going to get lost in the shuffle with all of these first-round draft picks. Right now, I'm thinking Ioannidis, once his contract is up, he might be the odd man out, one, because he wasn't drafted by this front office, and, you know, he'll be a little bit older, and they'll want to keep the younger guys around trying to keep that core together. So I feel like he, once his contract extension is up, I believe it's 2 years, he'll probably, you know, be allowed to test free agency. And, you know, they have Tim Settle. They have a couple of guys that they drafted on the interior and the X on the DN line, Shaka Tony, King Bradley, what's the other guy? Oh, the guy from Europe, Batter. He actually had a good game, had a sack and 4 tackles, I believe. And with him, I found out because he's from the European leagues, he has an exemption. So they were actually, if they decided to keep him, he would be an additional man on the roster that wouldn't count against the 53-man roster. So that's something interesting. Yeah, they have a reserve B lineman that they can have on the team that wouldn't count against the roster. So I think Ianitis would probably, like I said, when his contract is up, he'll probably be the man that they'll let walk free, be a free agency, depending on how the team plays and how things pan out with the other players. But they're definitely looking to re-sign Payne. Then you have Sweat coming up, and you have Chase Young. So I'm thinking they definitely going to try to keep that core together. Keep players like Tim Settle might get lost in the shuffle of Matty and Itis, the guys that you're going to unfortunately lose. And that's the kind of the catch-22 with the team improving. Back in a few years ago, we would cut players that wouldn't you wouldn't see in the league ever again because they didn't have the talent, the NFL talent they needed. But this team was trying to put them in a position so they could so-called be NFL talent. But now you're going to see players that's leaving this team and going elsewhere that were maybe backups here, maybe being potential starters there. That's a good thing in a way because that shows that your talent level is getting better. You're evaluating players better. You're drafting better. It's a bad thing because if they go somewhere else and excel, you always think like, damn, if we could have kept him here, he could have done that here. But it's a business. You have to worry about the salary cap, and fortunately, you can't keep everybody. And sometimes players do go elsewhere and play better or end up with better results than the team they were with. But like I say, now that you have more talent on the team than we did before, something you have these hard decisions that the coaches are trying to make now that they have to cut down the 53-man roster that's from 80 by 4 o'clock tomorrow. So it's a tough thing to see that. I know I always talk about our homegrown talent when we draft them. I would love for them to develop and play here and stay here and play well. That's one thing that Jonathan Allen mentioned when he got his extension, that his plan was, when he came into the league was to, play for one team and retire with that team. That this extension will help possibly make that dream come true. And that's all I like to see, the players that we draft, that means that they did a good job scouting them, they did a good job developing them, and they did a good job putting them in position to excel at their position. So, when you have things like that going, you have to keep that in mind, even though when you do lose other good players because of the business of it. And sometimes it just doesn't work out for the players you love. But the team has a plan. Hopefully the plan is effective. If it doesn't, then all the fans will be upset. Oh, you let this guy go and it didn't work out. This didn't happen. But that's the chance that they're taking. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the defense lines up. That's why I can't wait to see, who gets signed and who gets cut, because that's definitely going to have implication on the salary cap. It's going to have implications on who gets re-signed. But also the revenue, they say that the salary cap should be going up in 2023 by about between 15 to 20%. So more salary cap means, more contracts or bigger contracts you're able to restructure to try to, keep the talent on your team. So all we can do is wait and see, man. Great question.
I've got a couple other questions, actually, real fast. Eric Jessup says, does our esteemed assemblage feel that the lack of offensive rhythm and production in the preseason is a concern? We addressed it a little bit at the start, but in case Eric missed it, what is your thoughts on the rhythm of the offense and going forward?
It's still a work in progress. As I mentioned, you got Scott Turner, offensive coordinator, still finding his way as an NFL play caller. Developing his team, putting his team together. It's a difficult thing for offensive coordinator when putting everything together from scratch. So that's why I haven't been super critical of him. Also, they've been real vanilla with what they've been calling because of the tough 10-day stretch of having the Chargers and the Giants and having a game plan for both of those teams coming out of training camp, which is what they're going through now. So most of the plays and play calling and game and lack of game planning for the preseason game showed, especially against Baltimore on Saturday. Baltimore was pretty much blowing up everything they did in the whole game pretty much. So I mean, when it's no game plan and no strategy to what they're trying to do, they're just evaluating players and see how they perform, on the big stage, knowing that they're playing for their basically football career and see how they go. So I think you're going to definitely see a difference in the regular season. I mean, like you said, you do have, a reason to have concern. We know what this team has been offensively in the past, settling for field goals and not getting touchdowns when needed. So, I mean, there's going to be a concern until we see it on Sundays, them being able to get into the end zone. But we've seen them be able to move the ball in between the 20s. You've seen Fitzpatrick, had some flashes of some chemistry with McLaurin and with the rookie Brown and, with Humphreys, with him spending time with him in Tampa Bay. So I feel like, once the season starts and, they get into the rhythm of the season, I think it's all going to come together, just like we saw last year. It took a little bit longer, like I talked about, without the preseason and with the different quarterbacks that they were going through. I feel like we get consistent quarterback play and, Scott Turner understanding the strengths of his players that he has on the field out there and putting them in a position to win. And the defense does their job, even go beyond of what they, did last year. This team could win some games. Granted, they have a tough schedule, first place schedule, but I feel like this team has the talent to be able to repeat as division champs.
Yeah. So this top of the seventh just ended with a play to second base, a force out. Phillies still up 7-4. In the sixth inning, it was interesting, but some bad plays, and then they cleaned it up with some nice defensive plays on both sides of the field. Some moments of interest, but nothing, ending up happening, on the scoreboard side of it. But let's see at the bottom of the seventh if they can do some damage in this one. And then so Anthony Price and Eric are talking about Brendan Sheriff. Anthony was asking, how about Brendan Sheriff? I see us letting him go or trading him away. Most of the time when we tag someone, they walk. And Eric said Sheriff was offered the highest money in the position. I don't think he wants to be here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Mr. Sheriff. Yeah, he's playing the Kirk Cousins game. Franchise tag twice. Says he wants to be here. Rumor is, as Big Hurt told us, that he wants to get $100 million extension. And as I just mentioned, with some of the players that they want to lock up and get the extensions on the defense side of the ball, I don't think it's going to happen. He says he wants to be here, but for that money for someone that's had injuries and had consistent injuries that's kept him off the field for a full 16-game season. I believe he's only played a full season once in his whole career, so. I don't think that he doesn't agree to the contract they put in front of him. I feel like they're going to let him walk. That's why, this season is also critical and crucial on the offensive line with them re-signing Eric Flowers. He's at left guard, but he can play right guard. We've seen him draft. We've seen him sign some guards in the process. So, I feel like if he does walk, they're still in a good position to replace him. Might not be to the all-pro and Pro Bowl level of Sheriff, but, as long as you get consistent play and the guy that does his job and, can add to the line and make sure, can continue the chemistry and cohesion, then, the offensive line is going to be fine because he has a good group around him. And, now it looks like the rookie second-round pick, Cosme, looks like he's going to be the starting right tackle. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely he can learn from Sheriff while he's here. That's one of the good things about having a veteran lining up beside a rookie. He can learn so much on the field along with, off the field. So I think Sheriff is pretty much gone. I don't know if anybody is going to give him that $100 million, being his injury history. But as I mentioned, the salary cap's going up. Some teams might, figure that he's worth that. If they feel like putting that money up for him, then they definitely will. So I would love for him to stay here. I'm not going to say I'm a fan of his, but I respect his body of work and respect what he does on the field. But if he walks, hey, like you said, they offered him top money at the position and he didn't take it. He wants to be $100 million man. And with the pending contracts along with, on the defensive side, along with, they got to get ready to re-sign Terry McLaurin. His rookie contract is going to be up soon. I believe he has another 2 years. I know they're going to have to exercise a fifth-year option if they don't re-sign him before then. But, yeah, they have a lot of other folks that they would look to put that money into than a right guard that hasn't played a full season. That's, in my opinion, asking unreasonable money. That
Right.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, no, I agree. The last time we tried to pay someone $100 million, that didn't work out so well for us. So I don't necessarily love, yeah, a la Albert Hainsworth, and players think that they can shake Dan down for big money. So it doesn't surprise me that this move keeps on happening in our history, right? This is not the first time players have asked for big money, and sometimes they get it. So it'll be interesting to see. Mr. Tom Gobble wrote, Carol Porter, next time you're having a cookout, please give me more of a heads up. I need to get there and put my feed bag on. What you were cooking the other day had this fat boy slobbering. So I
hey
thought
man,
that's
I appreciate that. It's every Sunday in Virginia.
yeah.
I grill before I show on Sundays at the Bar Radio at 6 o'clock. So I normally fire the grill up around 12, 1 o'clock. So yeah, when I put the pictures out of me, getting ready to go over there, inbox me or, some comment, and I let you know, man, we don't have no problem folks coming through, enjoying some grub, bring something to throw on the grill or bring some cold adult beverages. You can check out the show on Sunday and just chill out with us, man. We don't mind having a studio audience, man.
That's awesome. Eric said, "Fat kid makes good. Already been NFL paid more than a truck driver. Chill into the sunset and save his knees. Laugh out loud." So that's pretty funny. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in on our Facebook feed. I know that Facebook did suppress. It let me share to all the groups, but like 3 to 5 people in each group see it out of like these hundreds of people. So they're pretending they're not suppressing us, but they're still suppressing us. So, but I really appreciate people for breaking through the algorithm, finding us, writing down some funny comments, some awesome insight, and feel free to share it with your friends and let people know what we're doing out here. It's a fun show. We love the interaction. We love the audience participation. We love the questions. Keep them coming. But I think we've beat this game to a dead horse, so we can maybe talk a little bit of baseball before we get out of here. I mean, there's not a whole lot more that I've got to say. It's kind of a wait and see approach. We'll definitely know a lot more next week. I don't know if I'll be on the air next week, but we might do a football preview. I know that Carol might do another video, a solo show or something a little bit later on the week when they recap the cuts. But before we switch, is there anybody that you know for sure that you think is getting cut that hasn't yet, or any thoughts you have on the cut down process before we go into that tomorrow?
I think it's going to be interesting with the wide receivers, with Antonio Gandy Golden, Sims, the 7th-round pick Daxville, DeAndre Carter. The wide receivers definitely going to be interesting to see how many they keep and who they keep. Same thing with the secondary. We've always had issues on the back end, especially at the safety position. This offseason, they definitely addressed those issues, and we have a lot of talent in the secondary, along with the draft picks. So it's going to be interesting to see, who makes the team and going forward, because I feel like they had a strong offseason. They didn't, do anything crazy. They didn't overspend. They addressed the needs of the team, and they feel like they went in the right direction. The players are speaking of the culture change and the way things are getting better. Even Landon Collins, from when he first signed, when that previous coach was here, until now, said that there's a big difference, that he noticed some things when he first got here that needed to get addressed, and since coaches come in, he's taking care of those issues. So I think the team is definitely heading in the right direction, and hopefully, God willing and injury willing, that this team can put together a couple of good seasons and try to make some progress and get to the promised land. All of us fans and lifelong fans want to see us getting back to a Super Bowl and winning another.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I'll leave it to you on whether or not we'll do, something with some guests next week, and I'll take the week off for Labor Day, or if you want to just do it on some other day of the week or
What
whatever. I
I'll
know.
probably do with cut down day tomorrow, normally Wednesday, there'll be a couple of moves made depending on who got cut from different teams. If a team is interested in them, they might bring them in and sign them, and then end up somebody else getting cut. So I'm thinking maybe Thursday, maybe Friday, you might see me pop on with somebody. I'm gonna reach out to a couple of our, affiliates and see who might be available for something for like a roster breakdown show at the end of the week. And then yeah, we'll be off Monday for the holiday. I might jump on real quick to do a Nats recap or something, or might just cover it in the following week when we come back when football season starts. So right now he's gonna play it by ear, but I'm gonna see if I can get something on the air this week with the roster breakdown, with everything, with the cut down and everything, and then we'll play it by ear on next week with the Nats recap since won't have any preseason football. So I don't know. I might jump on real quick, just do a quick something, and then get off, or might just wait till the following week. Not sure yet.
Right. Sounds good. I'm just sharing to a couple of baseball groups real quick, and we'll switch gears. And I just added another logo in there. We'll talk about um, this Nationals team for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna go just check on little Z. He went to bed just to make sure that everything is cool upstairs. But just real quickly, break down the week that was for the Nationals, and I'll be right back.
No doubt, no doubt. It's a current game. Nats Phillies is 7-4, top of the eighth. One out, one a man at the plate, 1-2 count. The Nats didn't fare as well this past weekend, past week as they did the week before when they won 3 games out of 5. This week they only won 2 games out of 6. They're currently sitting 55 and 74. They're fourth in the East. I believe they're 4-6 in the last 10 games. And, we've seen some of the same inconsistencies with pitching and, lack of offense and sometimes the bullpen. And now they don't have a bona fide closer. So, sometimes the guys they're putting out there are giving up leads and, unfortunately blowing saves and losing games. But like I say, it's a building process. They're, going through the process now at the end of the year, so that way, they can try to figure out who should be there and develop some of these young players that they have on the field now, and see if they're MLB quality that can help this team win and get back to the winning that we're used to and winning division titles and making the playoffs. They had 2 3-game series last week, one versus Miami and one versus the Mets. They're in a division, section of the season right now. They're playing the Phillies right now, and have a series with the Mets again at the end of this week. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets. They won the first game of the series, 5-1. Eric Fetty had a very, very good outing. He earned a victory that puts him at 6-8. He went 6 in the third, giving up 6 hits, 1 run with 10 strikeouts and 1 walk. Jacob Luzardo took the loss. That dropped him to 4-7. He went 4 2/3, giving up 4 hits, 5 runs, 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. Trace Barrera went 3 for 4 with a 2-run home run, and Ryan Zimmerman went 1 for 5 with a 2-run home run. Second game of the series was a 4-3 loss. Dylan Floral earned the victory. That put him at 5-4. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs with a strikeout and no walks. Kyle Finnegan took the loss, drops him to 4-5. He went a third of an inning, giving up 1 hit, 1 run with no strikeouts and no walks. Josh Bell went 1 for 4 with a 2-run home run, and Yadiel Hernandez went 1 for 4 with a solo home run. The final game of the series was a 7-5 loss. Can't pronounce his first name. Last name Hernandez for Miami earned a victory that put him at 1-1. He went 5 innings, giving up 6 hits, 2 runs. One of those earned with 4 strikeouts and 1 walk. Patrick Corbin took the loss. That drops him to 7-13. He only lasted 3 innings, giving up 4 hits, 6 runs, 3 strikeouts, and 2 walks. And Dylan Floro earned a save, his sixth of the season, going 1/3 of the inning, giving up no hits, no runs, with no strikeouts, and no walks. Juan Soto went 1 for 3 with a 2-run home run and 2 walks. And Josh Bell went 2 for 5 with the RBI single. We definitely can see the changing of the tide with this team because this team has dominated the Marlins for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 seasons with the Marlins going through their rebuild and new ownership. And you got to bear with me. I unplugged my headphones. All right, there we go. And just the fact that they lost 2 out of 3 to a team that they dominated. I remember the record, they were like 17-5 over the last 22 games against this team. And, it sucks to, go through this low right now, being, 13 games under 500, but it is what it is. You can't be on top all the time. We were there when they came into the nation's capital and, 100 lost teams back to back, and then they turned it into a winner. And now we just got to go through the rebuild again. Unfortunately, you can't be on top all the time. They traded away some of the youth for that run in 2019, so they have to restock the cap. The second series was against the Mets, who they unfortunately lost 2 out of 3 to. Also, they won the first game 2-1. It was entertaining. I actually watched that one. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of Nats baseball lately, but I did get a chance to check that game out. Paolo Espino earned the victory for the Nats. I put him at 4-7. He went 5 innings, giving up 3 hits, 1 earned run with 7 strikeouts and 1 walk. Rich Hill took the loss. That dropped him to 6-6. He went 5 innings, giving up 5 hits, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, and no walks. And Kyle Finnegan earned the save, his sixth of the season. He went 1 inning, giving up no hits, no runs, no strikeouts, and a walk. Juan Soto went 0 for 3, but had an RBI ground out, and Josh Bell went 1 for 4 with the RBI single. The second game of the season series was a 5-3 loss. Trevor May earned the victory. That put him at 6-2. He went 1 inning, giving up 2 hits, 1 run with 2 strikeouts and no walks. Ryan Harper took the loss. That dropped him to 0-1. He went a third of an inning, giving up 1 hit, 2 runs with no strikeouts and no walks. And Edwin Diaz earned his 26th save of the season. He went 1 inning, giving him no hits, no runs, strikeout, and no walks. Lance Thompson went 2 for 5 with the RBI double, and Escobar went 3 for 4 with the RBI single. And the last game of the series was a 9-4 loss where, Tyler Meglin earned the victory. That put him at 2-3. He went 5 innings, giving up 1 hit, 2 runs, with 5 strikeouts and 3 walks. Eric Fetty took the loss. That dropped him to 6-9. He went 5 1/3, giving up 5 hits, 6 runs, 5 of those earned, with 6 strikeouts and 1 walk. Josh Bell went 2 for 4 with a 2-run home run and a solo home run, and Juan Soto went 1 for 2 with 2 walks and a solo home run. This is an unfortunate stretch for the Nats. Like I said, last week they won 3 out of 5. This week they won 2 out of 6. And they're behind by 3 now, late in this game. Hopefully they can, get something to spark it. Find a way to come back and, win this game and end that 2-game losing streak. But it's been hard to watch Nats baseball a little bit now, especially not knowing most of the players that's on the team now. Like I mentioned last week, I didn't even know who Lance Thomas was until, I was watching the game, like, who's this guy? And he's been playing center field and filling in for Robles, who hasn't been feeling well lately. And a lot of folks have been clamoring for Robles to be gone because of his lack of plate discipline and bad batting stats and numbers. But he's a top outfielder, and it's hard to just let that go. I understand the frustration, I don't know what to do with him. He has the speed to be a good leadoff runner, but he doesn't leadoff hitter. I mean, but he doesn't have the patience or the eye to be a good leadoff hitter. The bottom of the lineup, I feel like he did play better. I feel like he should try to bunt for more base hits than trying to, swing for the fences. That I think serve him better. Uh, but yeah, got to take the good with the bad. We was enjoying all the playoff runs and first place finishes and division titles, but now the true fans understand sometimes you got to go through the low points, and right now, it's not as bad as it could be. We've seen teams like Pittsburgh that always are in rebuilding mode, always 15, 16 games out of first place. You know, not even 2, 3 months into the season, so you know it's not as bad as it could be.
Right. So Tom Cobble also asked, with the shredding of the team at the trade deadline, do you see Soto signing a new deal or being traded or walk as a free agent? What are your thoughts on the future of Soto?
I think they're definitely looking to re-sign him. They, plucked him out of Dominican under the youth contract along with Robles. He's definitely loyal to the team. He definitely wants to be here and wants to stay here. I feel like that was one of the reasons why Rendon didn't get re-signed, because they were, getting money together that they could get ready to, pay him, because he's definitely going to command a huge contract. They're talking in a range of 300 million, with him being so young and having the plate discipline, and the upside and the way his eye at the plate and his just enthusiasm and love of the game, that you can build a team around this kid. So I feel like that they're definitely going to do everything in their power to re-sign this kid. I don't see no reason why he would uh, want to re-sign back with the team, especially he got a World Series championship with the team. They saw the talent when he was 15, 16 years old, signed for futures contract, and he's in for a big payday. So I don't see any reason why he would end up walking or they would end up trading him, because I feel like he's a piece of the team, a piece of the future that can take this team, where they want to be. We thought it was Bryce Harper with all the hype and everything that he got coming up. First season that he was gone, Juan Soto would step onto the scene and he'll take this team to the pinnacle of what they wanted. So I feel
It's
like
crazy. It still blows my mind it was the next year, right? Harper said, we'll bring a championship to Washington by accident, and then it turned out to be true. Like, that I will never. I couldn't write a better story than that if I tried. I watched Harper fly out tonight. Like, he's made some plays into his game, but the contract that he ended up getting from Philadelphia, I am so thankful that Washington didn't pay that, right? He's never going to live up to that contract in my mind. And
to me, their team, like, that's a contract you give somebody if they're the missing piece that's going to help you get over the hump and get the championship. But yeah, to me, like you said, he's never going to live up to it. And to me, it was overkill, because they have so many other holes that need to get filled. By signing him isn't going to make them ultimately a World Series contender, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's just kind of funny because the way the Nats did it with like the oldest roster and like the unlikely heroes and as a wild card, and it was amazing to see, to hear that, have that story unfold when we get to cover it. I think that's a unique thing, but like, I think Harper would have to win like 2 championships in those 10 years to make that contract worth it in my book. And I don't even know if they're going to get one. It'll be interesting nonetheless. But I really appreciate everyone for commenting in on the Facebook Live, and we've got a live Twitch crew. Shout out to Cliff and Carly and DC's People's Champ and a bunch of other people for tuning in. And so I appreciate everyone, even if they're not, say, DC sports fans, for coming through and just being a part of the energy and the vibe and what we're growing here. So I appreciate that. So, Carol, which game did you get up to in your recap? Did you finish them, or are you still?
Oh yeah, that's the whole week. I was just about to go over the schedule, and we can wrap up with the DC United talk and the Mystics talk and get up out of here.
Perfect. That sounds good. All right. Do you have the upcoming schedule, or do you want me to run through it?
Yeah, I got it right here. We got you're playing the Phillies right now, which is a 7:05 start. So currently the bottom of the eighth, man on, still 7-4 Phillies lead. Man on first with Yadier Hernandez at the plate with a 3-2 count, no men out. It's also a 7:05 start tomorrow and a 7:05 start on Wednesday. Thursday the Nats have off, and then they have a four-game series versus the Mets, which features a doubleheader on Saturday. Friday is a 7:05 start. Saturday is a 1:05 start for the first game of the doubleheader. Second game is a 6:05 start, and on Sunday it's a 1:05 start for the final game of the series. And it looks like it was a fielder's choice, and Yadi Hernandez grounded out, but they didn't convert the double play. And it looked like he's safe. Yeah, it looked like they didn't convert the double play.
He's safe.
Yeah,
So
he
it's
reached the
one
fielder's
out,
play.
one on, bottom of the eighth. Ruiz, our catcher, who's 0 for 3 in this and only has a 100 batting average right now, is up to plate. So, you know.
He was just called up today. They actually sent down Trace Barrera. I saw a couple of fans were upset about that. I believe he's a top prospect. This is his second time up in the majors. He actually had an opportunity in, I believe, the bottom of the second with the bases loaded, and he flied out. Unfortunately, when the Phillies they started out with a 3-0 lead in the first, and he had an opportunity to try to add some, get some runs to get him back in the game early, and unfortunately he flied out. But he's another prospect, like we mentioned. They want to get these guys out here in major league games to see, how they perform. Just like we were talking about with preseason, with the players getting out there in the last preseason game. They want to see how they perform and see if they can help their team, going forward. It was somebody that they can develop, or somebody they need to just send back down, or maybe not even have on the team again. So, yeah, it's interesting seeing the process go through, but this is what we have to go through to get back to where we want to go and where we want to be at.
Yeah, for sure. It's I hope we get back there soon. I think it's only gonna be a year or two. I really don't think it's a long rebuild. I think sometimes you just have to hit the full reset button and just re-roll the dice, if you will. And I'm happy they did that, because DC teams are notorious for these partial rebuilds and just trying to patch some pieces in here. And I hope that works for the Capitals, and it'll be interesting to see how the Wizards do this upcoming season. As people may or may not know, I'll be taking a bit of a sabbatical. Carol will definitely keep the podcast going on his channel and Facebook and stuff like that. So my Twitch channel will go a little bit dark for a little bit, when I have a kid. But it'll be fun to come back and cover whatever happens. Oh my God, that was a terrible play by the Phillies. I'm sorry. Very distracting. There's 3 guys in the area, and none of them made the play. So now we've got first and second one out. So coming up big, bottom of the 8th, only down 3 runs. Sort of kind of like a bloop. And then where did it go? Why could no one get there?
And they've had a couple of bloop singles tonight.
Man, there wasn't a lot of space between those guys, so it found that spot. So, but you'll take it, you just move the runners, right?
Hey, a walk-off is always possible. Only down by 3, you got 2 men on, no out, bottom of the 8th. Yeah. 1 out. Keep the
just do some damage, even if they could just tie it here. So, it's it'll be interesting to see how the teams do. So obviously I won't be able to cover the beginning of the Wizards and Capitals season, and not as much of, we'll cover the first couple of games with you guys with the Washington football team. But, it'll be fun to come back in January and see where all this sort of shakes out with these teams, because a lot of big moves across the board for some of the teams, but then the Capitals are just trying to retool. And we'll see if that works out for them. They are so tight against the salary cap. Lundqvist did end up retiring. Congratulations to him. I don't know if we ever mentioned that on this podcast, but It's going to be an interesting next couple of months for watching DC sports for sure. I feel like we're in a crossroads. I'm excited for the championships that we've had, but I also want us to get back there.
Yeah, it's all a process. Sometimes it takes time. We've seen some success with the Mystics, with the Nationals, with the Capitals, and so they know how to get there and know how to win it. They just gotta, do it again. That's the hardest part. It's already an accomplishment to be the champion, but it's always the hardest thing is staying champion. That's why it's been hard for repeat champions in any sport. We just saw Tampa do it in the NHL for the first time since 2005 or six when Chicago did it. No, when that's right, Pittsburgh did
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Sky, I didn't want to correct you, but
I blocked out of my mind. I had to remember just for sake of the podcast. I had to
yeah, I'm
be
sorry.
correct in
Yeah,
history.
that's
and had
it's
to-
brutal.
Yeah, yeah, it is. What
But
it is.
we have a lot of other like winners of DC teams that I think a lot of the major networks don't cover quite as much. But we always have one of them being DC United, one of the winningest franchises in Major League Soccer. Now, not in a while, but early on they were like the Green Bay of soccer, winning a lot of early titles. And so, real quickly, I want to give an update to them because it's been a couple of weeks since we have uh, the August 15th, 18th, and 21st games were all losses. The last where we left them off, I believe, was August 8th when they won Montreal Impact game 2-1. So lost 2-5, lost 2-3, lost 1-2. But this past Saturday they played the Philadelphia Union, and they scored 4 goals, 1 against themselves and 3 positive goals. And won the game 3-1. In soccer, it's a weird sport. It's unlike hockey. If people don't know, it's not the last offensive person to touch it. You can actually score on yourself, which is unfortunate. But it is a thing. I don't know, Carol. What do you think is better? Do you think calling it an own goal if it's off your guy, or do you think that the person who last touched on offense, even if they weren't like they caused the goal,
So they get credited for a goal, even though but it's counted against them. So
yeah, exactly. It's a separate category, its own goal category.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of rough. I like the hockey. The hockey way I feel is better for the player because they don't, get that separate category. Or I scored on my own team, but I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Right. It's an interesting little difference between soccer and hockey. So that win was really important though, because DC United was like falling fast. And if people don't know how the table works, and that's what you call the standings in soccer, if you're coming from a different sport, we were falling off that table pretty quick. So top 7 teams in each conference make it. And there's some buys that go on to get, that's why it's not 8 or whatever. DC United is sitting at 7th right now with you get 3 points for a win, I believe. I think that's how it is. It's 1 point for a tie. And DC United is sitting at 30 points, just 3 points, or aka 1 win ahead of the Columbus Crew and the Atlanta United, which was the team that they beat. So obviously it's a big win, right? Because if Atlanta United wins that game, then they're in 7th place. So, we'll be monitoring them. People don't realize soccer is a long, long season. It goes, I believe, until, I want to say October, and it starts in the spring. So, I mean, it's like baseball and maybe even longer in length. So that's kind of crazy. The other big thing is the Mystics. They won a 1-point game, 76-75. Natasha Cloud had 21 points, 6-12 shooting. She was 4 for 8 from 3, and she just kind of took over the game. She scored 15 points in the 3rd quarter, and they basically willed a comeback. I mean, so going through the scoreboard real quickly, the Wings were up 17-9 at the end of the first. They outscored them 18-10 in the second, but the Mystics outscored the Wings 29-18 in the 3rd quarter. I mean, that's just a huge quarter, especially in the WNBA. And then they outscored them 28-22 in the 4th quarter. And they only won by 1. So, I mean, they had to really just kind of dominate those last 2 quarters to come back. And all thanks to Natasha Cloud for pushing them through. So that's key. And they're another team that's right on that hadn't been doing particularly well, and they've been struggling. They had lost 5 out of their last 7 games, but they're able to avenge a loss to Dallas on Thursday. So they just had lost to that team 82-77. It looked like they were going to lose again, but they're able to get a win. I believe the top 4 teams in each conference make it in the WNBA. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Carol, on that one. But
I think that's it.
and so yeah, because then 2 teams fall off of each division. It's kind of like the AFL was. And Washington's now 10-15, and Atlanta is 6-19. So they're just hovering there on that 4th place spot. But Atlanta's lost 10 in a row, so they've done us a lot of favors. But Washington's only won 3 out of their last 10 themselves, and so they find themselves 4 games up on that with that last spot. So we'll cover a little bit more Mystics going forward too. I just we've been talking a lot of football and baseball the last couple of weeks. I wanted to bring them back in the fold a little bit, and we don't have Brian on tonight to keep us on our soccer toes. It's an interesting time. They're holding on to these final spots. But as we talked about before, with the Nationals, you just got to make it to the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see what's going forward with those. Any thoughts, Carol, on either of those 2 teams before we move on?
No, hopefully we can get back to our coverage of the Mystics. I just haven't had chance to check out their games or get down to the arena. I believe we still have credentials for them. Got to double check, but I think we still have. But definitely will try to get into some more Mystics soccer. Yeah, that's a no go. I'll let you and Brian
Good for
continue
Carol.
to cover soccer. I tried, but yeah, it's not going to happen. Sorry.
The next game for DC United, they have a little bit of some time off. It's going to be September 11th at the New York Red Bulls, and then Wednesday, September 15th, just 4 days later, Chicago Fire will play in Washington at 7:30, and then the Mystics' upcoming schedule. I had it right here. Is the next game is against the Connecticut Sun. It's at 7:00 tomorrow, and then they'll play on Saturday at Minnesota. So in the WNBA, they tend to play 2, maybe 3 games a week. So those are the 2 games for next week. So we'll talk about that then. But Carol, it's been a fun show. I really appreciate everybody for tuning in on all of our different mediums, whether it be on Facebook Live or on Twitch or on Carol's feeds or on Carol, where are you these days? You're on Twitter too, right?
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Thinking about expanding Instagram, streaming live our show. I'm working on that right now. So because like we mentioned, some of the social media platforms suppressing our feed. We've been having some success and getting some good views without their promotional help. So they're basically holding our feed hostage for us to pay promotion that we don't need, because we have a good fan base that enjoys our coverage, that comes through our page. We get almost 20 to 30,000 folks coming through our show page on a monthly basis without their assistance. So they're feeling left out, and they're, trying to make it so we have to purchase their promotion. So be on the lookout. We're going to be pushing our other platforms more. Facebook was our largest viewing platform before all of this stuff going on. So be on the lookout. We're going to have some new things coming in the works that trying to figure out how to make it happen. So just be on the lookout. You're going to see us pushing our YouTube channels more, pushing Robbie's Twitch channel, me pushing Instagram feeds and everything like that. So, when we're not wanted somewhere, we will leave if we have to. So that's the way it's looking like it's going. So just stay tuned for so much more. You can always check out our content on sportsothp.com. Get some of the great merch that Robbie mentioned at the backdrop for the District of Champions shirt Robbie has on. You can hit me up for the Sports OTT Apparel, partner with Eric Kusa. Got to give a shout out to Asad and Eric Kusa. Also, shout out to 151 at the Bar Radio. Had another great show last night. Go check it out on our podcast channel at the Bar Radio Podcast on YouTube. Go subscribe to it. or you go subscribe to my feed, Carol for the Third with 3 eyes, and check out the shows every Sunday around 6. Monday night Sports on the Hill podcast, as always, bringing you the best DC sports coverage around. Other than that, man, I'm about ready to get out of here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Like I said, be on the lookout later on this week for our roster breakdown show on the Washington football team getting ready for the upcoming season. And as always, appreciate the support. DC Sports without the politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. And we out. See you in 2 weeks.
Money. Money. I love that money.
Lucas.
Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. You don't really want to play. Money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you've been talking about. You don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. It's money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you always been talking about. And I don't wanna be the one who always really talk about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. Money, 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 make you shut them mouth. Don't never ever talk about it if you never had the clout. You don't know what to say. Stay up out of my way. Cause money, 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 make you shut them mouth. Keep playing with your goonies, boy, I'm gonna have to make the call. Stay in bounds on your pivot, boy, if you gon' ball. Cause a lot of niggas be fake, and you really can't play. Cause we done got it out the mud, nigga, what you talking about? Screaming, oh my God, money got me pride. They living a lie, look into my eyes, they might seem surprised. This is homicide, we just multiply. We been on the rise. If we got some wings, fuck it, we gon' have to fly. Money, 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 what I'm talking about. Day in my life, I take me a different route. And use all my case, niggas on my face. You can get erased, what you talking about? Money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you been talking about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you always been talking about. And I don't wanna be the one who always really talk about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. You never crossing these borders. I'm whipping it up, Gordon Ramsay. I swear that I'm cooking these orders. You talk about me, you better just hope that you can just really afford it. I'm balling, I'm balling, I'm winning, I'm winning. I'm feeling like Robert's a horrid. Nigga, I'm scoring. I count in the morning. They talk about me, then I gotta ignore it. My bitches be foreign. So independent, my money be corporate. These rappers is boring. You hate me and I'm always gonna adore it. I'm smoking that soaring. She always go ahead and let me explore it. I call her my Dora. You can go and talk about me, I ain't flawless. I go put my all in. If a nigga talk about me, then I'm gone in. You know that I'm gone in. Jump in, take trips, Pompeii. All day, always keep 3 stacks like Andre. I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it, man. And you can never, ever, ever get rid of that. So watch what you say, and watch how you do. If you play the game, then you play by the rules. Money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you been talking about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. It's money, 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 money's what I'm talking about. We don't really know what you always been talking about. And I don't wanna be the one who always really talk about. And you don't really want to play. You don't know what to say. Cause money, 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 money's what I'm talking about.
Renegade 703, baby. Hottest artist in the DMV. Make sure you check them out. Got a new feature coming out soon. Be on the lookout.
A few years ago, I told myself I'd be the next big thing in the industry. See, the game is simple. Life has its way to show us that anything is possible. The power of the tongue, which has the ability to be detrimental or beneficial. Was it beneficial?
Amir Kari, check him out. Another hot artist we had on At the Bar Radio.
You're listening to this song right now. I'm speaking specifically to you. I want to give you my testimony and tell you a little bit about myself, if you don't mind. Alright. Coming from nothing but a little struggle and pain. Crazy how we can all turn around for you and change. I done seen a lot of things in the street, no danger to me. Hustling with them niggas that was no good for me, but I never gave up. 10 toes prayed up, thinking about the nights when the opposition got sprayed up. Trying to see a sunny day, all I get is rainy days. Screaming free my dogs and the loved ones who ain't here today. Yeah, I miss you, wanna kiss you, wanna hug you and hold you, won't forget you. All my life I've been misunderstood, just a little nigga tryna get up out the hood. And this thing we call poverty, but that's all inside of me. Used to cry myself to sleep, but strong I gotta be. Now I'm on TV, I done made it out the street. Troubled child turned the streams to reality. See, I knew that I would get there all along. Listen to the words of the song. This is my story from me to you. All I wanna do is just give you my truth. All I really want, promise to keep this just between me and you. Just between me and you. Yeah. And you can do anything, just believe in your dreams will come true. Who would have thought that we would come up like we did? Running around on Upland Street, man, I never forget. They told us we was bad, always getting in some shit. Breaking windows from throwing rocks, but we was just being kids. And smoking at the park, coming in after dark. Rolling with them thug niggas, reckless with no heart. Sexing on them, hood rats addicted from the start. Trapping and catching cases, ghetto life is so hard. Coming from a broken home, left me all alone. Neglected as a child with nothing to call my own. But now that I'm good, now that I'm paid, I'm shining, everything is okay. This is my story from me to you. All I wanna do is just give you my truth. I'm giving you my truth with me. Promise to keep this just between me and you. Don't you tell nobody no. And you can do anything, just believe in your dreams will come true. So yeah, this is a to B conversation, and with great faith you can see your way out of anything.
Can you hear me? I am calling now out your name, and now I know.
Straight out of New Zealand.
I know.
Another artist sending us some music. New Zealand people worldwide at the Bar Radio. Porto THP, True Radio Network.
And I know it's gonna be disco. Take me to a place where everybody learns, where everybody sees, where everybody shows their love. I didn't think so. You know. That's why I always try to plan for you or me. I really didn't think so. I take a promise, I give it some love, I make a wish upon a star. gotta get it right. You know you gotta get it right. Ooh, every little thing counts now. Every little bitty thing. Can you hear me? I am calling now out your name, and now I know, and I'm here, and you know it. It's all just the same, and I know it's gonna be disco. It'd be so cool just to celebrate.